Now in this next segment, I'm going to speak to one of the great leaders of the moment, the president and CEO of Gucci, who is making bold commitments on behalf of the planet, but certainly also on Gucci. But since he couldn't join me here in Copenhagen, I'm calling him up in his office in Milan. Ciao, Marco.
Ciao.
How has it been for you these past, 8-10 months for you, for Gucci, in Italy?
My experience has been the same experience of many other people. I mean, the big difference that I had is that I stopped flying after 40 years, more or less. I mean, that is, for the first time, I realized how much tiring is flying, because when you do something, you just need to do it, and you don't realize, and your body is always in jet lag, and it looks like it's part of the game. In reality, it's not part of the game. So that, in a way, has been a positive, the fact of not flying any longer. The negative, of course, you don't have the chance to interact with people, visiting people, motivating people.
Yeah. What about for the business? How did you steer through that?
No, the business is being, as you know, I mean, having a company that is mainly based on physical shop, brick and mortar shops. There was a certain moment where we had like 90% of the shops closed. So there's nothing that you can really do than try to protect your people and to make sure that because there always been this kind of dilemma when the company goes well, right? Everybody's talking about values, talking about principles, protecting people first, etc., etc. The real, to me, the real, proof is when you have problems, and where you can really see if these values are real or just fake.
I think during this COVID crisis, what has been very clear to me is that societies, companies, even individuals were able to change a lot of behaviors or things that we used to do when a crisis hit. But it also became very clear to me that there was a painfully visible action gap between what we were able to do in the COVID, but what we're missing doing on the climate side. So in your perspective, what's your thought on how can we use sort of a momentum like this to sort of also make more proactive actions towards climate?
If we go back to the Paris Agreement, in order to maintain the temperature growth below 1.5%, 1.5 Celsius grades, in 2015 we needed to decrease the impact of 3.6% every year. But because we lost 5 years, now this number is 7.6, 7.5. So it means that if you don't take action immediately, there's no time left. And we cannot hope of another COVID next year in order to reduce the emission, right? Because in a way you're gonna be sick. The economy is not growing, so we need to find a way to impact. So that. And again, it's, I'm from a generation where I was not very, my priority was not the climate, because when I was born, that certainly was not the priority of the world, of my priority. So I learned, I study, I listen to scientists, I listen to people that know much more than myself. That's the reason why we are always trying to avoid the way in which ourselves in Gucci are able to reduce our impact. So we did many initiatives in the past. We are launching new initiative now, and I think that at the very end, for what I read in the last few months, few years, at the end, if I have one point that could be interesting for me to keep in mind is that when we talk about nature and climate, we think of nature in terms of a victim of the climate. In reality, nature can be an actor to change the climate. It depends very much how you use it and what kind of transformation you do on the agriculture. So there are many ways.
Elaborate more on that. I think that's interesting.
Now we are moving in a new kind of strategy. Is now a natural climate-based solution, where not only we protect but we try to restore as well. The other part that is managing, and there where we can really give an impact is Gucci, because our supply chain is quite widespread everywhere. And managing means that we want to switch our supply chain to regenerative agriculture, in the sense that we want to make sure that our farmers, they move out chemicals from their soil, because at the moment we have just 60% of the soil that is left. And in 40, 50 years, no topsoil will be left any longer, so no food will be left any longer. So we need to act on that. And the way in which we want to do that is to make sure that if they are able to switch to regenerative agriculture, they're able to absorb carbon emission in the land, they're gonna create revenue because they can sell the credit of this carbon. And also the kind of wool or cotton or leather that they're gonna produce for us is gonna be, in a way, less, more sound, let's put it this way, because it's coming from something that is not impacted by chemicals. Gucci is a drop in the ocean. I cannot think that we are going to impact dramatically the planet. But certainly, that's the reason why I launched the Carbon Neutral Challenge, because the point is, today what I listen is that everybody's setting target 2050, 2060. 2060 I will be 90 years old. I will be probably managing Gucci. But if not, I cannot leave to my successor targets that are not mine. Doesn't make any sense. And also it's going to be too late. I think people, they need to understand they need to move for what they can now.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.